work session started today. Mayor Mock is out at the conference, so I will be stepping into the big chair, so please bear with me and give me a little grace as I stumble through this. I'll go ahead and call the January 16th City Council public hearing work session to order. The clerk will call roll.
Mayor Brian Mock. Mayor Pro Tem Jimmy First.
Here.
Councilmember John Mesa. Here. Councilmember Leslie Robson. Here. Councilmember Paul Stovall.
Here.
Councilmember Elmer Veith.
Present.
Fantastic. And I will need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as prepared by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the item? All in favor? And that passes. Any announcements or presentations today? No announcements or presentations. So with none, we will move to public hearing. I need to read the rules of order for the public hearing. This hearing shall be presided over by the mayor. After calling the hearing to order, the mayor shall request the parcels of property which are subject of the zoning proposal be identified and read. Following such identification and reading, the development director's recommendation shall be presented. The mayor and city shall cause the director's written recommendation to be part of the record. Proponents of each proposed zoning decision shall then be allowed a total of 10 minutes for presentation of data, evidence, and opinion concerning the zoning decisions. If all 10 minutes are not used, the proponent's remaining time may be reserved for rebuttal. Opponents of each proposed zoning decision shall be allowed a total of 10 minutes for presentation of data, evidence, and opinion concerning each zoning decision. The presentation times may not be reduced, but they may be extended by majority vote, provided they're expanded equally for proponents and opponents. Anyone wishing to speak must come to the microphone, give their name and address to the city clerk. Do not speak unless you have the microphone and have been recognized. And with that, we'll move into nuisance commercial property ordinance.
This is actually me for this public hearing. We have an ordinance to add the definition of nuisance commercial property to both Chapter 22, but also to our UDO. And so what this ordinance would create the definition of a nuisance commercial property. And so anytime we have unlawful activity or problematic stuff happening on commercial property, we now have a process both through Chapter 22, which is the business license chapter, as well as through the UDO to provide notice to the property owner, not just the business that's operating, but also the owner of that commercial property, and ask them to rectify the unlawful activity and identify ways to mitigate it and prohibit it before the city takes action. Beyond that, the city will then be able to take action if there's no remedy in place. So that is essentially the additional language that will go into both sections of our code. We had to have a public hearing because it is a text amendment to the UDO in addition to the regular ordinance. And so after this, we've listed it under first read for your consideration on Tuesday.
Excellent. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this item? Anybody against? All right, that moves us to our next item, PZ 2024-1350, Pineapple Express Smoke Shop Variance Application.
Hello, good evening. My name is John Maximuk, Planning and Development Director. Mayor Pro Tem, and members of council. We have one of two applications that I'd like to present tonight. The first is 4849 Buford Highway. This is
Vivian, you might have to run the show on this one.
the applicant in this application is Mohsin Khan, owner, THK Express Incorporated. The proposed use, not development per se, the proposed use is to maintain the use of a tobacco product shop less than a half mile from another tobacco product shop. And a little bit about where this comes from. This is part of one of the supplemental use standards in the Unified Development Ordinance. So we have specific requirements for specific uses, and tobacco products is one of those things. And so that's what we're focused on here. We can advance to site location. Well, the applicant's request is a variance from section 240-13B19A to allow a tobacco products shop to be located within a half mile of another tobacco products shop. And so what's key here is actually two things. One is the use itself. The other is the distance, and that's important because the requirement is that a half mile or more has to take place before these two uses can be allowed within the zoning. And so I'm going to walk you through the chronology that spells out what's important with the use and the distance. But it also has to do with timing because of the time when licenses were valid for both of these businesses. So I'll beg for your indulgence as I go through these details. They're important for the case. So the chronology, the timeline of the property, actually I'd like to go back to the site location there and turn your attention to the right image there. Vibes and Vape is listed as 4928, and the applicant's address is 4849 at the lower right. If I had a pointer, I'd show you that's the lower right area. And the distance here is not a half mile, and so that's the basis of the request. Moving forward back to the chronology timeline, as I mentioned, I'm going to read this in detail because it's important for the facts of the case. Between June of 2015 and December 2019, a business named MRK Foods, doing business as Express Smoke Shop, was operating at 4849 Buford Highway, the key site there at the lower right. In June of 2019, a notice of violation was issued to Express Smoke Shop, MRK Foods, doing business as Express Smoke Shop, for operating with an expired occupational tax certificate. Again, in April of 2021, the same business received a notice of violation for operating without an occupational tax certificate. Moving forward to number 4 on the chronology. In 2021, a new business license application for THK Express Incorporated, doing business as Pineapple Express, was submitted and approved for a gift, novelty, and souvenir store. Number 5 in the chronology, advancing, thank you. In April of 2023, an occupational tax certificate application for a different tobacco product shop, Vibes, Vape, and Smoke, located at 4928 Buford Highway, was received, and building permits for interior renovation were submitted. Staff requested that the applicant submit a survey demonstrating that the supplemental use regulation for tobacco shops to be a minimum of a half mile from another tobacco shop was being met. In May of 2023, Pineapple Express was issued a third notice of violation for operating a business without a business license. And in June of 2023, the applicant for Vibes and Vape submitted the requested survey, and it did not include Pineapple Express because the business did not have a valid tobacco license. Moving on to number 8 in the chronology, in July of 2023, Pineapple Express was issued a fourth notice of violation for operating the business under the wrong use description. And in August of 2023, that same year, the building permit for Vibes and Vape was approved and issued. In September of 2023, Pineapple Express submitted a revised zoning verification form indicating the correct use of tobacco product shop. The request was denied that same month by the Chamblee Planning and Development Department, our department, due to the application for Vibes, Vape, and Smoke being approved 2 months prior, causing Pineapple Express to not meet the tobacco product shop distance requirement. So one took the place of another. On the next page, you'll see a site survey. This is the big view. We show a distance between shops 1 and 2 being 1,026.9 feet or 0.19 miles, and a half mile or 2,640 feet is required to meet the half mile requirement. And the following diagram shows a little more detail off of Buford Highway. The applicant in question here is at location 1 at the lower center, and the approved location is at number 2 at the top center. And by the way, staff measures this in a very specific way under the ordinance, wherein we measure the site from corner of one property to the corner of another property in a straight line. If you will advance the slide, please, you'll see photos of the building interior. I apologize for the City of Brookhaven notation there. That is a typo. It's a remnant of a prior PowerPoint presentation. I apologize. Moving forward, you see another picture of the building interior after enforcement. And then still more subject property photos on the following slide. Frontage along Buford Highway and frontage along LaVenture. And then a last photo view of the subject property. Based on the analysis of the application using the standards and criteria found in Chapter 280 of the UDO, staff recommends denial of the following variance request for the half mile.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this item? Please come to the podium if there is.
Farouk Mogul, 2704 Mashira Cove, Decatur, Georgia, 30019. I'm representing Mr. Khan. Thank you, the mayor and the member of the city council. So Mr. Khan has been in business for almost 7 to 8 years, 7 to 10 years, within the city. And this is when Mr. Khan came to us after August 2023, when all the documentations went in ready. So there was an accounting error from them when they refiled this paperwork on the classification of what Mr. Khan wanted to do. And after that, I believe they abided by all the zonings and everything since being in the business. Because of that accounting error, the business has lost a lot of revenue, almost like $50,000 worth of revenue so far. And, according to, my conversation with Mr. Khan, we would request to reconsider, the grandfathered in, because when the ordinance changed, this was before, but because of the accounting error, I think it changed the classification. So we would request to reconsider that so that we can submit the proper paperwork. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item? Anybody wishing to speak against? All right, that moves us on to PZ 2025-1401, 3715 Longview Drive.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, this one has been moved to February, so we will not take it up this evening.
So this one has been deferred, so that moves us to,
3588 Broad Street?
yes, 3588 Broad Street. I appreciate that. I got lost in my notes.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, this is 3588 Broad Street. This is a variance. The proposed action is to construct a dumpster enclosure in the front yard of the commercial property. This commercial property is very close to where we are right now. It's down on the left side or south side of Broad Street between here and Peachtree Boulevard. And it's the planned unit development zoning district. There's one variance in question tonight. And that variance comes from our accessory use standards within the UDO that govern a number of different uses, including dumpsters. And as we've seen in recent months, we have a request to install commercial dumpster enclosure in the side yard. As you may recall, dumpsters should be located in the rear yard and should be located with a minimum of 5-foot setback in the directions. So if you look through to the site location slide. You'll see the building, which features prominently on this site. The building takes up most of the site, and most notably, there's almost no rear yard where this building sits on the site. And that's where lawfully where a dumpster should be located. The next slide, the proposed enclosure, we get a little more detail here. The applicant is proposing a wood fence 8 feet tall to enclose the dumpster, and the wood is notable because it's different than the staff recommendation that we'll get to in a moment. And the dumpster would remain in its current position in the northeast corner of the property. If you drive by now, you'll see that same location. And in the photograph on the right, there's a small white rectangle at the upper right-hand corner, and you'll see where that proposed location would be. Next slide, please. Here you have some required details on the site plan. A dumpster that is 35 feet from the property line, 50 feet from the street, and clearly located in the same location where it is now. And you have a diagram of the building. You also have on the right detail of the dumpster area and its dimensions. Views of the subject property are included here. Proposed enclosure location to the left side of the front yard of the property and frontage along Broad Street, a little farther out. The last photo is probably the most instructive or illustrative of the variance request because it shows the rear yard along Chamblee City Heights Apartments, or where the subject property building sits in a relationship with the now emerging Chamblee Heights Apartments, which we're going through the CO process on. So it's almost no rear yard, and certainly not enough space to put any kind of commercial dumpster. Moving on to the last slide. Based on the analysis, second last slide. Based on the analysis of the application using the standards and criteria found in Chapter 280 of the UDO, staff recommends approval with conditions. And the following variance requests. A variance from Section 240-7, B8E, to install this commercial dumpster enclosure in the side yard. And staff recommended conditions of approval are that the development should be constructed in substantial conformity with the plan submitted December 4th, 2024 to our department, and that the enclosure shall be constructed with a design and material similar to and complementary with the existing primary structure on the site. That's different than what's proposed by the applicant, but it's consistent with what council has requested in the past. The current building, as you might recall, is built out of a light-colored brick. And staff would add, and it's not on here, the note that the second condition should be submitted per approval of the Planning and Development Director so that we have a little bit of oversight on that design. That's the end of the presentation.
Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this item? Please come to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Jade Boyer of Emissary Trading Company, 35. Our address is 3580 Broad Street. That's the builder's warehouse side where we're proposing the dumpster go. We don't have a back of the building. The back of our building is woods, and a garbage man can't get back there. I've done some research to get the wood and the blah, blah, and it's quite costly, not including the fee that we've already paid just to be here. So that's why we're proposing wood. It's not going, we're getting, a contractor to build it. We're not trying to do anything cheap or shabby. We want to do something because it's big. So it's going to have to be, a decent wood and decent construction and things like that. I think the recommendation is that y'all usually like it the same material of our building, but a brick dumpster enclosure is quite expensive, so we would ask that we not have to do that.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak against this item? Fantastic. I recommend the applicants stick around because there might be questions from council later. All right, moving on to public hearings, non-zoning. Staff reports. All right, and then old business. Under approval of minutes, we have 47 minutes. Does anyone have any discussions or concerns? All right, moves us down to ordinance second reading, which we have none. New items, we have none. And then announced items, we have ordinance first read, the nuisance commercial property ordinance.
Yes, this is the item that I presented during the public hearing about the text amendment to the UDO and the amendment to Chapter 22 of the Chamblee Code of Ordinances regarding the notification for businesses that have unlawful activity going on their properties, and the definition of the nuisance commercial property to the code. So any questions on that? Go ahead and answer.
Thank you. Brings us to staff action items, the 2025 general administrative annual appointments.
These are your annual appointments that you do for your judges, solicitors, mayor pro tem, the whole list, your hearing officer. So you'll take this up on Tuesday, but if you need to discuss it as well, happy to answer any questions. I will note on this that with your judges' appointments, Georgia law has changed. So any appointment will then have a corresponding to your contract associated with it.
Typically what we, it just rolls over into Tuesday because, and then we should give a motion. Are there any of these positions that have a recommendation by an appropriate body? I mean, I know some of them are our decisions and our decisions alone, but I think there's other, like potentially the judges that maybe the senior judge has recommendations. That's probably in the packet that I didn't read.
We did not include all those in the packet.
Okay.
As we typically do, the staff will recommend reappointing the existing incumbents in those positions, and then, of course, you guys can change that if you would like to change it. I know you guys don't typically interact with our hearing officer and solicitors and all that, so we will send you the information for all of those individuals, but our recommendation is to keep those positions.
And I have not submitted my ethics. Watch me, I'm going to talk into the microphone. I have not submitted my candidates for the ethics board, but I will have them on Tuesday.
Excellent. Any other questions on those 4 items? All right. Resolution to add membership in a fund of Georgia Interlock Risk Management Agency, better known as GIRMA.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. So Georgia law changed last year, and it is now a requirement for municipalities to provide coverage for PTSD benefits for first responders. We have determined that the best option for us is to add that coverage through our GIRMA insurance that we already have, and that seems to be what most of GIRMA's current clients are doing as well. And we could source it out, but we figured it was best to just add that line of coverage through our existing insurance provider.
Now, is this different than the one that sent me the bill for something from GIRMA, or is that something else? When I sent it to you and you said, that's interesting. I can't even remember what it was. Somebody sent me a bill, an invoice.
For police?
It was for, I thought it was for GIRMA, but it might have been GMA.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been something related to other lines of coverage through GIRMA. This is specific to law enforcement, or public safety, but law enforcement in our case.
There's no expedience to approve this tonight. We'll wait till Tuesday.
We're fine to wait until Tuesday.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions on this item? All right, that moves us down to the appointment of the Economic Development Director. I would like to say that every time the mayor's gone, we seem to appoint a new employee, so I do enjoy that privilege. So, Kristen.
Yes, I am requesting that the council consider appointing Ashley Yeomans to the position of Economic Development Director. And I would like for you to take action on that this evening, if possible.
This item requires action tonight, but first, is there any discussions or questions from council? Can I get a motion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to make a motion to appoint the candidate, because I forgot the name, I'm sorry. Ashley
Yeomans.
for the Economic Development Director.
Second.
I got a motion and
Sorry.
second. Any discussion on this item? All in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you. welcome to the city of Chamblee. We're happy to have you.
We're
We'll
usually a
work
little
on
bit
your
more
name
organized.
membership from Mr. Mesa over here.
Yeah, anytime the agenda, there's a curveball, we're like, what's going on? Every single time.
Typically, the name would have been included, and that's why I just started reading it. And as I got to it, I realized it's not on there. So I was like, whoops, sorry.
All right, moving
Panic.
on. This is the City of Chamblee Medical Services Director contract.
Yes, Mike, do you want to come up and talk about this item? I'm sorry, Chief Diapa.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, Michael Diapa here on behalf of the Chamblee Police Department. The contract between the Police Department and the Medical Service Director stems from our relationship with the North Metro SWAT team, and each of the agencies that are partners with the North Metro SWAT, currently that is Brookhaven, Dunwoody, and the Chamblee Police Department, all have entered into separate MOUs with a Medical Services Director, all the same person, Dr. Rosing, where we pay a monthly fee for his services, and he is the medical director that provides input and suggestions as well as medical direction to the North Metro SWAT team and to our operators during incidents when we are serving warrants or acting in an official capacity. He also is available for the department should we have specific questions that come up that are not just related to North Metro SWAT.
Thank you, Chief. Any discussion?
Action on it tonight?
No, sorry.
That was my discussion.
That was your discussion. Any other further questions or discussion on this item? Thanks, Chief. I think you got to continue standing up there for the next one. Real-time crime center build-out.
Yes, so the police department has moved forward with the plans to build a real-time crime center. We did do a RFQ and had vendors put in their bids. One was selected. The contract, I believe, is before you or will be going before you, and the plan will be to, at the public safety building, build a real-time crime center capable of monitoring areas and looking for crimes as they occur in the city of Chamblee with the goal of lowering our crime rate and keeping our residents.
Any questions or discussion for Chief?
It might be for Kristen. Timeframe from signing contract to we're ready to start moving equipment in?
I believe they can mobilize pretty quickly. Is that correct, Chief?
When we had initial discussions with groups, this was a voice to us that the build could occur within approximately a 12-week window. That would be, I think, very aggressive. We would look more towards probably the beginning of summer, maybe sometime in the month of June or July at the earliest for it to take shape. And it's going to be a little bit of a tricky situation because as we do the build of the space that's already set up in public safety, there will be equipment that will have to be added in the technology component that will come after, and that is going to be used or purchased through the grant that was obtained in 2023. So we're going to work with moving parts, and we need all of them to line up perfectly in order to get this up and running. So anything before June of 2021 would be very ambitious, I think, to say, but sometime in the early parts of summer, we should see a space finished. I don't know if it would be fully occupied at that time or technology ready.
Chief, can you walk us through that technology and what kind of data that the officers will be looking at to identify that real-time crime?
So there's a few things that we currently have in place. We have license plate readers that are strategically placed around the city that we're currently using to help us solve crimes that have occurred. We, in March of 2024, approved additional pan-tilt zoom flock cameras that we have not installed all of them currently throughout the city, but there will be several of them strategically placed in intersections and busy corridors with the purpose of all this will be funneled into our real-time crime center on screens, and the purpose will be if a call for service goes out and a description of an offender or a vehicle is relayed to officers, personnel in the real-time crime center will be able to access cameras in the general area and look for a perpetrator or a vehicle matching the description of the perpetrator's vehicle and direct our officers to that area to solve the crime. Additionally, when crimes are not going on, we will be able to work on leads that have come in from previous crimes or through other cameras that we have or witness testimony and use those cameras to try to identify or look for criminals who have committed crimes that have occurred in the near future, or in the recent past, I'm sorry, where the data or camera video is available to us. So it should be a constantly ongoing operation, again, with the goal of lowering crime and protecting public safety for our residents.
Does that include real-time monitoring as far as like they see somebody suspicious out there, being able to identify and sending out a unit to potentially intercept?
Potentially, it will be when staffed. And
When staffed.
currently, there's not staffing for a 24/7 operation of the Real-Time Crime Center. It's will be incrementally built out, and we will look to involve strategic partners, specifically other agencies in the North DeKalb area, Doraville, Dunwoody, and the city of Brookhaven are a few that come to mind, but again, there's nothing official. There's just been preliminary talks amongst police chiefs who use similar technology and crime-fighting strategies to work together as a force multiplier.
I'll add again that this is a huge opportunity for the police department as this space is available where it's not available in other places. So we definitely have capacity to partner with other agencies because we will have the space that they do not have.
Any other questions or discussion on this item? Thanks, Chief. All right, that brings us back to Pineapple Express Milk Shop variance application. I had some questions, but it looks like the applicant has left for the day.
I also had some questions, but since probably the only one that can be answered is, it seemed, and Mr. John could, there seemed to be some inconsistency in your timeline and the timeline, at least the way it was phrased, or
Yeah.
I sensed a little bit of, did you pick up on any of that? Did you?
Well, I didn't
Like
see any
a-
of that. I think that the discussion is not so much about, the validation of the chronology, because that was something that was what the applicant went through our office and the business license office to go and seek those permits. And so that's sort of settled law, per se, because they've come to the point where any other remedy or appeal has already expired, and now they're asking for a variance based on distance. The argument is not about, what happened in the past. It's about the distance now, and that's what the basis of the variance is about.
But part of that, for me, with what happened in the past, affected the second shop
Yeah,
opening up.
In general, what happened was
But
that.
it still seems like that was not a relevant factor.
Yeah, the license expired, another company came in, took that place, literally geographically, according to the UDO. And the applicant tonight lost that place.
But the original license was for a novelty shop, not for a tobacco shop, so that's technically incorrect, isn't it? They
I
never had the license to run as a tobacco shop. So even if this second shop came in, they would have never shown up on your documentation, right? And they would have been able to be granted the license regardless. Is that correct?
Well, I'm going by the records that we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
So maybe
the license was a novelty. It was never a tobacco shop at any point during the operation of this business, correct?
Right, but I'm not questioning that because the basis of this application is
Completely understand, but the applicant is saying it was an accounting error, when in actuality it wasn't an accounting error. They just never had a license to run as a tobacco shop. Is that correct?
And there's no grandfathering because there was,
There's nothing to
There.
attach it to.
I think
is no
I think there's a lack of
grandfathering.
clarity
There is
on
no
your question.
Okay.
The business apparently had a license. It's not clear what that license was, but that license expired in 2019.
From what I was reading, though, it said novelty.
The reapplication was a novelty. The notes that we have in our
Okay,
packet
so it's not-
does not
all right.
show what type of license was held up until 2019.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
And it seemed,
I'm not saying it was or wasn't. I'm just saying our packet does not have that information.
right, and it seemed like there may have been an accounting error, we'll just say that. It may have been the improper, but it seemed like there were opportunities to address those mistakes that were just completely ignored. Because I counted, was there 4 notice of violation of not having a business license and not, I counted 4 in your timeline.
I
Is
believe
that
that's
correct?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
So it seemed like, it's not like it was one day expired and then gotcha. I mean, there seemed like there were other opportunities. And because they weren't remedied during any of those 4 opportunities, the second vape shop came in and, as you say, took the place.
That's the easiest way to describe it, yeah. And what I wanted to say in my presentation.
I'm just trying to I'm trying to understand if the accounting error or the improper license error or whatever it was is even relevant to this discussion, because it seemed like there were opportunities to, again, fix that didn't get taken advantage of.
Right.
I'm happy to be told differently, but that's the way I see it right now.
Right, right. What I wanted to say earlier was that the focus should not be on, discussing and arguing the facts of the chronology, because that's settled. But it's about the UDO variance and the half-mile requirement.
I get that.
Is there,
But the reason why we're doing that is the issue is because it wasn't settled.
the applicant finds that it wasn't settled.
Yes, okay. You heard what I asked. Is there anything you have to weigh in on that?
Absolutely. I think, like mentioned before, I think it was a classification when they opened a new company, and they couldn't, again, accounting error, that they refiled this class. While that was in process, I believe that the other shop got their license first. And I think that was the error that is showing on Mr. Khan's part, that while they've been in business for so long and the license expired, I completely understand there's so many other violations that they have to go through. But when they opened the new company, with that new company, they wanted to go through the classification, and I think the classification just went wrong. And I think during that process, the UDO was being changed, I believe. That's why I think they got it. And, even to, at this point, my recommendation is like, don't go through a denial. If it's a grocery store, then continue on doing it. Maybe there is a way that, you get the first right of refusal, or maybe reapply for this. And so that has been my recommendation. But I think that classification is the main thing that their accounting firm that they were doing it had a mistake on that while they were going through that process.
Any other questions or discussion on this item? All right, that moves us down to 3715 Longview Drive. This item has been deferred, so now that actually brings us to 3588 Broad Street, dumpster enclosure variance. Any questions for the applicant or for the director?
I have some questions. So the requested location for the dumpster is 37 feet from the side property line,
35.
and so they've got 37 feet to play with?
Ma'am, if you're going to speak, please come to the podium so people at home can hear you.
The current location, the proposed location, there's 35 feet to the property line.
To the side property line?
Right.
But it's woods. It's not like you could put anything there.
It's a very imposing location, that the one that is there now without an enclosure is. I don't think that you're proposing to move the one that you're going to build very far back.
Yes, ma'am.
So in my opinion, the whole purpose of having an enclosure and getting it out of sight is getting it out of sight as much as possible. And so the enclosure, I'm worried that the enclosure that you're proposing is still right in your face when you're driving up Broad Street, and that is an eyesore. Not to mention that a completely built out of wood one is yet another issue. And another thing that I would like to maybe listen to what you might have to say about this, John, is there such a thing as doors that close and open on a spring? Because I've noticed that a lot of the dumpster people, owners rather, in Chamblee don't bother to close the front doors of their dumpsters, and I'm so tired of looking at it. And I know that code enforcement is entirely sick of dealing with having to stop every single day at some of the few that don't close their doors. This is the whole point of an enclosure, and it's especially important in a front yard, is to minimize the fact that we've got a garbage dump sitting in a front yard. That's it. I mean, it's aesthetics. And so that's why I'm very concerned about the location, and I'm also very concerned about automatic doors, and I'm also concerned about wood. I know that you're talking about building it out of wood, and you're going to get really good wood. Really good wood doesn't exist anymore unless you pay a lot of money for it. So I don't see that as being a
Well, I meant something
viable
where,
solution.
when I said that, I
Going to
want.
use oak?
Excuse me?
Are you going to use oak?
I don't know, we haven't gotten that far, but my point is, I want to use something that's visually pleasing, you know, and that's going to last. We don't want to Band-Aid this. If we're going to have to spend the money to put it up, we want to put it up in a way that will stay. Now, as far as the springs, I don't know. We do plan to have wheels on it,
Tagging, that's a good idea.
doors with wheels, because sometimes people, I think it's going to be too heavy to pick up anyway. I think wheels are going to be required. And, you know, to have the wheels, and I'm almost sure as well, builders can't really have those doors open because it would kind of be in their way. If those doors where we're proposing to put it and the sizing, if it comes out 6 feet, it's coming out into their parking lot, and they're not going to want that. So I can't guarantee the doors will be closed 100% of the time, but what I'm saying is builders wouldn't want that because it's blocking their driveway, and then also we want to put the wheels on it to try and help to make it close easier.
Okay, so I'm going to get back to, so you're saying that a 6-foot door, if it's left open, is going to encroach into the parking lot, but you still have a 35-foot distance to the property line. So you have the ability to move that dumpster enclosure back towards the property line.
If we get into construction and knocking down trees.
Leslie, actually, it looks, if you look at it from the satellite image, it looks like it's just trees, but it's a slope. It's a
hill.
big grade.
Yeah, Vivian, can you pull up the site plan one more time? Thank you.
Actually, a street view would probably be even more beneficial, but there's
I just had it up. There's about a 15-foot embankment.
yeah,
I hear you.
and what,
Yeah,
it's
you
not
can
going to
see
block
it in
the
that.
parking so much as
Go back to
blocking
that
the
previous
loading
one.
dock.
Go back to,
Right. See, it's
The other one,
to the-
another picture, the parking
Hang
lot.
on, hang on.
I'm sorry. I just want to see the picture.
Yeah, so it's not blocking the parking, it's blocking their loading dock. Because if that door swings out, if you look at the street view, it'll block that leftmost thing. So
Well,
they're gonna police that anyway.
the loading dock is also parking, because it's parking for the trucks that back up to the loading dock or to pick up their items. But that's immaterial, because, yes, let me back up. I'm looking at this distance between the bottom of the hill and the back of the existing dumpster right here, and there's some room to move that dumpster back. That's number one. Number two, the picture that you're showing of this wood enclosure looks like all of the other wooden enclosures for dumpsters that are in Chamblee. And we have determined over the amount of time that we have been dealing with this, that those don't last, they don't look good. So you can assure me as much as you want, but I'm not going to believe that because I've seen the examples. However, there might be a way around that because, like I said, dumpsters, we're all about the aesthetics that are presented when a dumpster is in a front yard. So maybe we need to think about landscaping around that dumpster, and maybe we need to think about pushing it back a little bit towards the back, towards the property line. I think you could spare 5 feet, and without even cutting trees, I think you can, because I drive by it every day and I look, and I think you can. And I also think that maybe some vegetative screening,
You keep
especially
saying
on the
that-
street side.
I have a question for you, Leslie. You keep saying the back, but that's actually, isn't that the side yard right there?
That's, and I'm not, I mean, push the dumpster back to the side yard.
Okay, well, you said to the back, so I was just trying to visualize what you were saying, that's all.
What they said about the plat, or the site plan rather, is that they've got 35 feet between, what, the edge of the driveway and, or not the driveway, but the loading dock
Yes,
and your
Property
property
line.
line.
yes.
So I think you could fudge it a little bit back.
Well, what I do want to say is when you show the picture of the dumpster, we have to move it back for the enclosure.
Okay, thank you.
So where it is now, that's just where it is now.
Right, it's just where the guys drop it every
That's
time.
where
It
they drop it.
moves
But
all
when
the time,
we
yeah.
build, we have to build, it's going to have to go back anyway, just to accommodate the enclosure.
That's very helpful.
It's probably be better for the loading and area as well, just to get
Yes,
pushed away.
yes.
So my,
Our goal, we're going to put it back as far as we think we can, because
Right.
I think that it's, size-wise, I think it's, we just want to make sure it's spaced there. And then we also have to allow for the garbage truck to come around and get in. What they told us, they do not go in at angles. They have to be able to pull up straight to the dumpster.
So, well, the picture of the location that you're showing is slightly angled, but
But see, when we move it back, as you state,
they'll be able to get
they
straight.
kind of go right behind that builder's truck. They'll kind of go right behind that truck.
So, back to the wood, you're gonna have to put a really nice color stain on it.
Okay? In the second picture, you mean the side on the right? Where you mean,
Can
Lynn?
we go to the picture of the,
So it's a bit
This one.
sensitive
That's
because Broad Street is our main
I
thoroughfare
know,
coming up
y'all
to City Hall.
drive by here
Yeah.
all the time,
Yeah,
so
we're-
I know.
So, we want the prettiest dumpster we can get.
so the left side of the photograph,
Yeah.
and I guess that this is an example, this is not the one, whatever. So the left side of this photograph, I'm assuming, is what's going to be facing Broad Street, slightly parallel to
That
Broad
is
Street.
facing Broad
Right.
Street,
And
yes.
so I'm asking that you think about putting some shrubbery just on that side.
Oh, like from the dumpster to the street, maybe?
Well, along the length of the dumpster wall.
Oh, you mean like some plants or something? Oh.
Just something to shut the view from all
I
the people
got it,
coming to
I
enjoy
got
our
it.
beautiful
We do
downtown.
that, actually. Yes, I could see, yes, I could say I think that could be totally doable.
Then I think I can live with the wood.
Okay. Now, the question I have, we haven't, as I say, we just kind of, so when we decide, okay, we like this wood, we like this, and this is how we're going to do it, do we then submit that?
You'll submit it to
You submit to him,
planning and
that's-
development.
that's why there's a condition that says, subject to approval by the,
Yeah. So how this
Economic-
will, how
maybe
this
not the
work
economic.
out is, Councilman Robson would like to have some plantings in there, so that'd be part of the conditions that, and the plantings would have to be approved by planning development. So it'll all be codified and you won't be left guessing. We'll work you through the process.
Okay, that'll be fine.
The only other question I'm going to have is that the posts that this is built on are 6x6s, not 4x4s.
No, I don't think we talked about 4x4s, because,
That's fine.
no, I don't think we talked
I,
about it.
I understand that, but I want to be sure to specify that. because-
You're talking about the slats?
I'm not talking about slats, I'm talking about.
corner posts.
Oh, the corner post.
Because the 4x4s are going to warp.
I think we're getting into the weeds a bit.
Yeah.
I think this is
I
P&D,
understand,
yeah.
but I want this thing to
Well, again,
last.
we can condition that it requires steel support
Right.
columns, and, I think that comes
Right.
to, if
So,
this
and-
is
and
moved
so
to approve,
I'm really
then we
directing
can
this
condition it.
Okay.
so that you can write that, so that when we
Yeah.
approve it on Tuesday, we can approve what I'm talking about.
You won't have to remember all this. It'll come to you in a nice little package that
That'll be
will
just
give you all the directions you need to build this the way it's
That'll be
needed.
just fine.
Absolutely. Any other questions or discussion?
I do, can you go back to the one that shows the dumpster and the truck sitting in the parking lot picture? That one. So I see a wooden privacy fence back there first glance, that seemed like the place to put the dumpster there, and then it kind of just has a facade, it's not hanging out. Why is that site not chosen, and what is that?
It's not
wooden-
wide enough.
It's not wide enough for
It's
two?
not wide enough.
I've looked at that one. They need these two dumpsters, and They would not fit side by side.
Okay. Question answered. See, I'm easy.
Plus, you have a side door over there.
Microphone.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if they have a door. Well, I think that door that you see in the picture, I don't know if they have a door on that side. Because back there is not, again, it's just woods and bushes
Well,
and
no,
stuff.
there's some actual stepping stones now. I noticed them today on my way here.
Okay.
So it looks like they lead to a door, which is fine. That's okay.
Fire escape or something.
I don't,
But that's a in and out, and you wouldn't want to block that with a dumpster either. So I know, I agree with you that they have to be where you're choosing to put them.
okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, that brings us down to mayor and council items, and I don't see anything on the agenda under anybody's name, so now we're down to public comments. I need to read the rules of this. The mayor is the presiding officer. All remarks shall be addressed to the city council's body, not to individual members. Anyone wishing to speak shall come to the microphone, give their name and address to the city clerk. Limit remarks to 3 minutes unless further time is granted by council. Not to speak a second time until everyone wishing to speak has spoken once. No one can speak more than twice. Please do not speak unless you have the microphone and have been recognized. Is there anybody in the audience today that would like to address council tonight? Doesn't look like we have any takers. Do we have executive session? It doesn't. So with that, we're done.